Women are the ultimate architects of concealed desire. From the time they are young, they are taught by every social mechanism available that expressing raw, uninvited sexual desire is dangerous. It carries social cost. It carries the risk of exposure. It carries the vulnerability of being seen before being chosen. So they learn to hide it. They build a fortress of plausible deniability around their physical attraction. They will sit across from you, feeling a pull in their nervous system so strong it is practically vibrating in the space between you, and they will look at you with the calm, collected expression of someone discussing the weather. If you are waiting for her to simply tell you she desires you or to make a move that leaves absolutely no room for doubt, you are playing a game with rules she abandoned years ago. But her fortress has a backdoor. Tonight, I'm going to give you three specific questions. They do not look like flirtation. They do not sound like pickup lines. They sound like deep, interesting conversation. But they are engineered to act as a psychological hack that bypasses her prefrontal cortex, the part of her brain actively hiding her desire, and directly triggers her autonomic nervous system. When you ask these questions, you are not listening to her words. You are watching what her biology does while she tries to find the words. Stay with me, because the third question is the one that most men would never have the absolute nerve to ask. It is the one that operates like a neurological truth serum. And once you see the specific, involuntary physical reaction it produces in a woman who secretly wants you, you will never have to guess where you stand again. But first, I need to lift a weight off your shoulders that you have probably been carrying for years. If you have ever spent weeks or months around a woman, analyzing her texts, dissecting her hugs, trying to figure out if the warmth she showed you was just friendship or something violently different, and walked away completely confused, that was not a failure of your intuition. You were trying to read a script she was actively, deliberately hiding. You were looking at her conscious behavior, and secret desire does not live in conscious behavior. It lives in the biological leaks that happen when her brain is placed under specific types of pressure. Tonight, you learn how to apply that pressure. The mechanism, why these questions work. Before I give you the first question, you have to understand the neuroscience of why a simple question can reveal a physical secret. Psychologists refer to a concept called cognitive load. When you ask someone a complex, unexpected, or emotionally resonant question, their prefrontal cortex has to work incredibly hard to process the question, access the memory, formulate an answer, and, crucially, filter that answer for social appropriateness. When a woman secretly desires you, keeping that desire hidden already takes up a percentage of her background cognitive load. When you hit her with a question that forces her to think deeply about you, her cognitive load spikes. The prefrontal cortex becomes overwhelmed. And when the managing part of the brain is overwhelmed, the limbic system, the emotional, sexual, primal part of the brain, briefly takes over her physical behavior. She experiences a micro moment of what neurologists call limbic hijack. Her active management slips, and her body tells the exact truth that her words are trying to hide. Here's the first way to trigger it. Question one, the pre-verbal recall hack. Most men, when they want to know what a woman thinks of them, ask safe, general questions. What do you think of me? How would you describe me? These questions fail because they give her brain too much room to construct a safe, platonic, personality-based answer. You are going to ask her something that forces her brain to travel backward to a specific fraction of a second. You look at her, hold eye contact just a beat longer than normal, and ask, I want you to be completely honest. What was your exact first thought about me in the 5 seconds before I ever opened my mouth? Here is the psychological architecture of why this question is devastatingly effective. Research into a phenomenon called thin slicing shows that the human brain makes a complete, complex evaluation of a person's sexual and genetic viability within 200 milliseconds of seeing them. Before you spoke, before she knew your personality, her biological hardware had already categorized you. When you ask this question, you are forcing her brain to bypass the months of friendship or polite interaction you have built and access that initial, purely physical somatic marker. You are forcing her to remember the moment she evaluated your body and your presence. The platonic response versus the desire response. If she does not have secret desire for you, her cognitive load remains low. She will answer quickly, smoothly, and usually with a focus on your demeanor. I thought you looked nice. I thought you seemed quiet. I thought you looked like that guy from that movie. There is no break in her rhythm. But if she felt a sharp, immediate physical attraction to you in those first 5 seconds and has been hiding it ever since, this question is a psychological trap. You just asked her to retrieve a highly charged, highly sexualized memory. Her prefrontal cortex scrambles to find a sanitized version of that memory. And while it scrambles, her biology leaks. Watch her eyes. She will almost universally break eye contact, usually looking down and to the side, because the memory she accessed is not safe to maintain eye contact with. Watch her skin. The sudden recall of a suppressed physical evaluation triggers a microspike in her sympathetic nervous system, causing a slight involuntary flush in her chest or neck. Watch her timing. There will be a distinct unnatural pause, a hesitation of about 2 seconds, while her brain frantically edits the truth into something acceptable. She might say, "I thought you were intimidating," or "I thought you were trouble." The words do not matter. The hesitation, the broken eye contact, and the flush are her biology screaming that the first thing she noticed about you was not your personality. Question 2, the isolation simulation. Pay very close attention to this one, because this question leverages one of the most powerful triggers for female arousal in evolutionary psychology: unmanaged proximity. When a woman has a secret sexual obsession with a male friend or acquaintance, her brain continuously manages the distance between them. She knows exactly how close is safe and exactly where the boundary is. She maintains the boundary because crossing it means exposure. You are going to ask a question that forces her brain to instantly simulate the total removal of that boundary. In the middle of a completely normal conversation, you shift your tone to something slightly more grounded and you ask, "If we were completely cut off from the world right now, just stuck in a cabin in the middle of nowhere for a week with no phones and no way out, who would lose their mind first?" This is not a question about survival. It is an approach avoidance conflict generator. When you ask this, her brain immediately constructs a mental simulation of the scenario to answer the question. It places the two of you alone in an enclosed space for an extended period, with all social rules and external observers removed. The biological leak. If she views you strictly as a brother or a platonic friend, the mental simulation holds absolutely zero sexual tension. She will laugh instantly and answer logically. You would lose your mind because you cannot live without coffee, or I would lose my mind because I get bored. The response is immediate and analytical. But if she secretly desires you, the mental simulation of being trapped alone with you is a scenario her dopamine system has already played out in her darkest, most private thoughts. When you force her to simulate it right in front of you, the sexual tension of the scenario floods her nervous system. Her brain experiences a massive approach avoidance conflict, the intense desire to be in that isolated scenario with you, clashing violently against the panic of you figuring out that she wants it. You will see three things happen in rapid succession. First, the neurological pause. It will take her a fraction of a second too long to answer. Second, the nervous system release. She will laugh, but it will not be a comedic laugh. It will be an autonomic release laugh. Slightly breathy, slightly higher pitched, designed to vent sudden internal tension. Third, she will physically shift in her seat, crossing her legs or adjusting her posture, because the sudden spike of arousal in her body literally requires physical movement to disperse the energy. She is attempting to formulate a joke about who would eat all the food, but her limbic system is entirely focused on the fact that if you were alone in a cabin, the tension she has been hiding would instantly ignite. If this is blowing the doors off the way you look at conversations right now, hit the like button. Because what we are doing here is giving you the ability to read the matrix of human interaction, and every person who engages with this video helps another man find this exact clarity when he is sitting across from a woman he cannot read. Now, let me give you the third question, the one that changes the temperature of the room. Question 3, the shadow projection test. I told you at the beginning that this third question operates like a truth serum. It is the most powerful of the three because it does not just test her desire for you. It invites her to bring the most hidden, most primal part of herself out into the light and places you directly in the center of it. Every woman who is managing a secret desire is living split in two. There is the presented self, the polite, contained, socially acceptable woman she shows to you and the world. And there is the shadow self, the raw, deeply sexual, uninhibited woman who knows exactly what she wants, but is terrified of the judgment that comes with revealing it. You are going to speak directly to the shadow. When the moment is quiet and the energy between you is focused, you look directly into her eyes. Lower your voice so it loses all its social performative pitch, and you ask, what is the one thing everyone completely misunderstands about what you actually want? This is a profoundly intimate question. It is a psychological technique called projective identification. You are signaling to her nervous system that you see past the mask. You are creating a container that is strong enough to hold whatever secret she is carrying. If she does not desire you, she will answer this question using her presented self. She will talk about her career. She will talk about how people think she is an extrovert, but she is actually an introvert. She will keep the answer entirely intellectual and safe. But if she has been burning for you in secret, this question will feel like you just reached into her chest and touched her spine. The ultimate tell. Because she wants you, the thing she actually wants that people misunderstand is inherently tied to her repressed sexuality, her desire to surrender control, or her specific physical fixation on you. She cannot say that out loud, but because you ask the question with genuine, grounded presence, her body will react as if she did. This is where you look for the most involuntary biological response in the human body: pupillary dilation. When the sympathetic nervous system is triggered by intense emotional or sexual resonance, the pupils dilate to take in more visual information. It is a biological impossibility to fake. As she thinks about how to answer you, her eyes will darken as the pupils expand. Her vocal frequency will drop. The higher pitched social voice will vanish, replaced by a slightly slower, breathier cadence. This happens because high emotional and sexual arousal relaxes the vocal cords. She will look at you, her pupils dilated, her voice lower, and she will give you an answer that dances right on the edge of the truth. She might say, people think I always want to be in control, but sometimes I just want someone to take over. Or people think I'm really innocent, but I'm not. She is telling you, without telling you. She is handing you the key to the back door of her fortress, wrapped in a riddle, waiting to see if you are man enough to turn it in the lock. The silence that seals it. Here is the secret to making all three of these questions work. The psychological hack is not just the words you say, it is what you do immediately after she answers. Most men are terrified of tension. If they ask a deep question and the woman gives a heavy, revealing answer, the man's own nervous system panics. He immediately makes a joke. He changes the subject. He nods quickly and starts talking about himself. He shatters the container because the sexual tension is too heavy for him to hold. When she gives you the tell, when she blushes, when she does the nervous laugh, when her pupils dilate and her voice drops, you must do nothing. You hold the eye contact. You let the silence sit there. You let the tension build. You do not rescue her from the exposure. This is what Madison Miller explores with such surgical precision: the ability to hold the frame, the specific, grounded, unshakable internal architecture a man needs to look at a woman who is leaking secret desire, recognize it, and simply be present in the fire of that moment without flinching. Because if you flinch, if you break the tension, her fortress goes right back up. But if you hold it, if you show her that your nervous system is strong enough to handle her truth, the secret desire stops being a secret. It becomes the reality of the room. The shift from guessing to knowing. Let us be completely honest about what this is. These three questions are not magic tricks. They are tools of biological illumination. They work because human beings were not designed to hide their deepest evolutionary drives indefinitely. The suppression of sexual desire requires massive, continuous cognitive effort. All you are doing is placing a small, highly calibrated weight on the exact part of her brain doing the suppressing and watching it momentarily buckle. The pre-verbal recall, the isolation simulation, the shadow projection. Each one strips away a layer of the polite, friendly, sanitized dynamic she has been hiding behind. Each one forces her body to process the reality of her attraction to you in real time, right in front of your eyes. You no longer have to guess. You no longer have to wonder if you are misreading her warmth or inventing signals in your head. The flush on her chest is real. The hesitation in her breath is real. The dilation of her pupils is a biological fact. She has been telling you the truth the entire time. You just did not know how to speak the language her biology was using. Now you do. The next time you are sitting across from the woman you have been wondering about, Do not look for signs. Create the environment that forces the signs to reveal themselves. Ask the question, hold the silence, watch the fortress fall. Subscribe to this channel right now because this is where we strip away the surface level advice and give you the raw, unfiltered psychological and biological truth about how attraction actually operates in the dark. Like this video and share it with the man who has been trapped in the friend zone for 6 months because he doesn't realize she left the door unlocked. And whatever you do not miss the next video because once you know she desires you, what you do in the following 10 seconds determines whether you actually get her or lose her forever. See you there.